Well, good morning, my dear friends, and welcome to the Sunday edition of Lox Bagels on Life, where you bring the lox and bagels, and I will try to share a life-enhancing message with you. Well, I must confess, it is very, very hard for me to leave Hanukkah. Hanukkah was really exciting this year with so much going on. And although Hanukkah finished Friday afternoon, Friday evening, I think I'm going to squeeze in one more Hanukkah inspiration, one more Hanukkah story, a story that I read over the weekend in this little publication that we have, which is called The Scroll. I'll speak to you about this a little later, but just give me 1 second. I need to just go get something quickly, so I'm going to have this on while we speak to tell you about the story that I read this weekend, which was very moving on many different levels. And the story was moving on different levels for a number of reasons. The story involves a individual that was somehow a childhood figure in my life, or I wouldn't call it childhood, but when I was a teenager and I studied in Brooklyn, New York, I would always go to the Chabad, the main Lubavitch synagogue on Eastern Parkway, after studies, would maybe do some afternoon prayers, do some study there. I was basically dorming, so I had plenty of time. And there's always this elderly Jew. His name was Rabbi Usher Sasankin. He was an elderly chassid and a very plain person, had no airs about him. And every time I would walk into the synagogue, I won't say every time, but many times, my visual of him is always sitting in the corner studying Torah, many times with a study partner. He had the typical look of a chassid that just came out of Russia, always still wearing his Russian casquette. And there was something very unique about him. One of the great memories of him, though, are always when he would light the Hanukkah menorah at the Rebbe's service after the afternoon service. And he was the one that would light the menorah in the shul. And he always said the blessings with such devotion, such focus, such energy. I remember his eyes closing and he had a very raspy voice, but there was such soul in every word of the blessings that he would say. That itself was something that left an indelible impression upon me about the kavana, about the focus one should have when they do a mitzvah, make a blessing. In fact, when I light the menorah and I make the blessings, his blessings always reverberate in my mind with such holiness, such purity, such sincerity. And there was something special about when he lit the menorah. And this Shabbat, when I was reading the story, I thought maybe that's where it came from. Maybe that's why he had such a very special connection to this mitzvah. And this is what the story is. Reb Usher, like many other Hasidic Jews, including my Zaidi, my uncles, were sent to Siberia for being counter-revolutionaries during Stalinist Russia, for creating underground shuls, synagogues, schools for children to study Torah. And the communist Russian regime at that time would get after them, find them, and send them out to Siberia. Very, very torturous place to be, especially in the winters. We all know about Siberian winters. And when you went to the labor camp in Siberia, many people did not come back. And this story is about Reb Usher, who, of course, they caught up to him, his counter-revolutionary programs of keeping Judaism alive in Soviet Russia. And there he was in the Gulag, in the Soviet labor camp up in Siberia. As he's there, another Jewish individual joins him. But this Jewish individual was sent for other reasons. He actually was a Jew, but he distanced himself from Jewish faith and Jewish practice, and he became part of the Communist Party, very active in the Communist Party, was very high-ranking officer in the Red Army, and he was not only high-ranking, but he was climbing the ranks. As he was climbing the ranks, he was caught with doing some illegal activities, for which he was sent to Siberia. So here you had this old Hasidic Jew with the full beard in Siberia, practicing his faith, And here comes along another individual whose name was, I have his name was Nachman Rosman. Nachman Rosman was a assimilated Jew who found himself in the same camp with this traditional Hasidic Jew. Now, Reb Asher was a Chassid, and as I told you, he had this special, warm, spiritual energy to him. And as Nachman Rosman observed Reb Asher, this Hasidic Jew, he was drawn to him because Nachman did grow up in a traditional home, as many Jewish children and teenagers at that time, although they grew up in traditional homes, but were attracted to the communist philosophy and left their Jewish faith to join the Communist Party. But somehow there was some warmth in Nachman's heart. And Nachman was drawn to Reb Asher, to the Chassid, and slowly started to adapt, even in the harshest of situations, in the harshest of circumstances in Siberian Russian labor camp. He started to keep Shabbat, he started to observe kosher, and he started to really reconnect to his Jewish faith in a very profound way. And him and Reb Asher obviously created a bond. Now, Hanukkah was coming, and we have to light the menorah. And I've shared with you a few stories, even the past week, of what these Hasidim would do in these unusual circumstances. They would find something to hold the menorah. I told you a story about the potato. This story of Asher tells Nachman, let's get a can, let's ration the butter and the margarine. Same story, we'll take out some threads of our coat, of our jackets, and we'll have a menorah. Nachman says, are you crazy? Never. We're going to do menorah the right way. And Nachman says, I have connections. Some people, he says, owe me things here in this camp. And I know Igor, who's in the metal workshop. And Igor, with a few rubles that I was able to smuggle in, I'm going to make sure Igor makes a proper menorah. And I'll make sure the people in the kitchen who he said owe me some favors will give us what we need to have a menorah. And lo and behold, in Siberia, in the dead of winter, in the Russian labor camp, Nachman brings Asher a menorah. It was a little basic menorah, but unmistakably a menorah that his friend Igor made in the metal shop, and all the materials that they need. And there they go, on the first night of Hanukkah in this Russian labor camp, where you can't even smuggle a cigarette or hoard a crumb of bread. There they were, Nachman and Asher lighting the menorah. Now, the prisoners in camp had a policy that no one would inform on the other. So Nachman and Asher found a little closet space in the back of the barracks where they would be able to hide and light the menorah. And it went off without a glitch. No. Night number 1, night number 2, night number 3, night number 4, slowly they're celebrating and observing their Hanukkah hidden, but in a beautiful way. As they're lighting and sitting around the menorah on the 5th night of Hanukkah, the dreaded sound that no labor camp worker would want to hear happened. This hard knock on the door, and immediately the door opens up wide. And there stands one of the highest ranking officers, commanders of that camp. And they knew when this fellow comes in, if you'll make it out alive, it won't be easy. And right away, he walks, and the prisoners, the fellow prisoners, tell Asher and Nachman, put it out quickly. But it was too late. This officer made a beeline straight to the menorah, and now everyone is hushed. They knew, or they thought they knew what was coming. And this Russian officer, is staring at this menorah. And something is stirring inside of him. His gaze is fixed straight to this menorah. And he looks with his face white. He looks to Reb Asher, and he says, Reb Asher, Piat? Piat is the Russian word for 5. He turns to Reb Asher and says, Reb Asher, Piat? And Reb Asher turns to him and says, Piat. Yes, 5. And with those 2 words, this Russian ranking officer turns around and leaves the bunker. and never to be seen again. And that's the story. The story is that the Hanukkah menorah, what happened in this Russian officer's mind, nobody will know. But one thing we do know, something stirred up inside his soul. And who knows where that led him. And this, my friends, is a story of every one of us. When we light the menorah, when we look at those flames, there's something that stirs in our soul. We may be able to articulate it as being a feeling of connectedness to our Jewish faith, to our Jewish tradition. We may articulate it as a feeling of the presence of holiness in our life, but something happens. Piyat? Piyat. It could be just a reminder of what night it is. But regardless, in every one of our experiences, if we lit the menorah or if we saw the menorah, something happened this Hanukkah. Grab it. Try to articulate it. Try to translate it into something actionable so that the lights of the menorah is not only piyat, it's not only the fifth night, but something that will continue on and on. Hanukkah is such a beautiful holiday, a festival of lights. As we said on Friday, let's not pack it and move it, put it away. Let's pack the menorah away, but allow that light to shine. A light of positivity, a light of holiness, a light of spirituality, a light of purpose. Whatever that light was, let it shine and continue to illuminate your pathway in the days to come. Think of what could have gone on in that Russian officer's mind and translate it into what went on in your mind. One moment, all it is a moment during the 8 days of Hanukkah where something was stirred. Let it shine and let it shine bright. As I mentioned to you earlier, this story I found this Shabbat while I was reading this publication that we created called The Scroll. It's a weekly publication, very short readings, but very powerful readings. It's a 6-page little pamphlet that we put out in the lobby of our shul here in Newtown, at our shul in Yardley. And I want to start something new, being so inspired with this Hanukkah story of the light touching one soul to another, that I want to offer a subscription that, especially for those that are at home, or those that don't only stay home but aren't coming indoors yet to public facilities, I would like to offer you a subscription to mail this to you, that it would arrive to your home every week before Shabbat. So in addition to, of course, the pre-Shabbat sermon, you'll have other weekly inspiration with such beautiful stories and insights into your Jewish tradition. And to do that, all you have to do is just send me an email. Where is that? rys@jewishcenter.info. Go to send an email to rys@jewishcenter.info. Tell me you would like to receive these. I have someone who's ready to sponsor the mailing of these. I'd love to mail it to every household if possible. So just send me your address. Let me know you'd like to receive this on a weekly basis. Perhaps you have a friend who would like to receive them on a weekly basis. It is something that is so beautiful, so short, and so meaningful. This is my resolution, to try to keep the flame, the inspiration of Hanukkah going throughout the year and even beyond. So one more time, rys@jewishcenter.info. Send me an email. Let me know the address. You'll be able to receive the scroll on a weekly basis and have all the great inspiration in a nutshell in your mailbox every Friday morning. For now, it's still Sunday. I want to wish you a wonderful and successful week. I want to wish you an inspiring week, a week in which we are able to immediately translate these beautiful messages of Hanukkah into everything that we do. For now, enjoy your lox, your bagels, your coffee. Let's say a l'chaim on a good Starbucks coffee, l'chaim. We should have a wonderful, wonderful, meaningful day and meaningful week. All the best, and we sign off.